We would start by talking about what it was like to work on this production that was so woman-led, that had women department heads.
I am just such a fan of everyone on this stage and got the opportunity to, really dive deep and I got to listen to everyone's vocal track, soloed and dig around in there and just be an admirer of everyone in this process.
Thank you. All right, Alice, same question for you.
Well, when John Chu asked me what my goal for this movie was, I said that it would be the greatest love story between these two women, these two best friends. And in many ways, I didn't realize that goal would actually be realized among the whole crew. It was an incredibly special, amazing movie to be a part of. It was magic. Every day was magic on our set. And that doesn't mean it wasn't incredibly hard. It was 155 days of really, really hard work. And I just felt so privileged to get to know Elphaba and Glinda and Nessarose and be the female lens through which this movie was shot through, because I'm the cinematographer. And I got to, John Chu also wanted this movie to feel really vast, but he wanted it to be so intimate and personal and raw and real, and getting to be so close with our lenses on all of our wonderful female leads.
Yay, thank you for that. And Dana, what was it like for you to work on such a woman-led project?
John Chu is the greatest female man I know. So he brought me on, and I had the opportunity to work with the incredible Winnie Holman, who I had admired her work for my whole life. I had my so-called life t-shirts that I made. They were not bought. They were not like on the internet. I made them with my hands. And I felt so supported by Winnie. It was amazing. It was sort of like the story of the movie. We kind of fell in love with each other over the course of writing this together. And, this was their baby for 20-something years, and they allowed me in on this process with them that I will never, ever forget. And I've known Alice. I worked with Alice, and she's so extraordinary. And I think for me, the big thing was as a writer who've worked in this business for over 20 years, they don't make movies like this, starring women with this many women behind the camera. That's partly because John Chu is going to fight to hire those people. But we don't normally get this size. I mean, this is a superhero movie. It's a love story. It's epic. It's all of those things. And the chance to be able to work on something that's about women, about female friendship. The female friendships I have, they're the loves of my life. So being able to work on that was an incredible gift, and I know that it might not happen again unless, well, this movie made so much money, maybe we'll get to do it again.
I mean, that's why we're so excited to have you all here.
They never seem to learn the lesson, though. The women movies make so much money, and they're like, what a fluke. Anyway.
Winnie.
What was the question?
Was
when I hear compliments, I kind of go into a kind of a daze.
Yeah, the question is, and I think you have probably experienced this a little bit more in your life in being in writers' rooms with women. But the question was, how was it to be on this production with so many women?
Well, first of all, for me, I'm going to say something possibly radical. For me, it isn't about what you have between your legs. It isn't about, a woman or a man. It's about feminine energy, which has been, discounted and actually pressed down. And a man can, as we all know up here, John Chu, a man can, or Stephen Schwartz, can be a vehicle for beautiful feminine energy just as much as a woman. So for me, it's really all about the people, like who they are and what they're about, what their motivation is, why they're there. And I just know when we were all making the script together, we were just there for love. We were just there to infuse it with as much love and compassion as we could. And then these amazing people come in and they're just, they just bring it to another level. So it really is at what you dream of, what you always wanted, It's very fulfilling. And I think that's my answer.
It comes across on screen. So
Yeah.
congratulations. And Marissa, how about for you?
Yeah, I love working with women always. It's working with women and just being around women is something that feels very safe to me. And then just, it goes back to the conversation of authenticity. I mean, me being disabled, but also just like a female lens and having women input on the story to make an even more authentic storytelling that way. I think that's also really important. And my opinion, bias, came across incredibly well, thanks to these talented women right here and everyone else sitting over here as well. And I'm just so lucky to be sitting here with all these fellow talented women.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ariana.
Same thing.
Same thing. I felt like you had an answer a couple of minutes ago, so I've been waiting to.
No, I'm just appreciating. I'm listening to the greatness of everyone on this stage. I'm genuinely such a fan of every single person on this stage. People who I just met, people who I've known their work and loved it for years. I am in awe of this woman to my right and every single woman on this stage. It is the feminine energy that is what has made this film what it is. And like you said, Winnie, it's not necessarily gendered because, John Chu has been so loyal to Alice Brooks, the genius over here, since college. And it's just such a beautiful thing. She had to design the Ozdas ballroom scene and figure out how to support and catch the butterflies that happen in that room. And it's a 10-minute scene, and she had to make it so that it never cut. That scene, how it plays in the film is how it went every single time. And, you guys had to figure out 700 lighting cues.
Close, 500.
Wow.
Oh.
But very good. I can't believe you know that.
I thought, no, so many less, true. No, I'm kidding. But, it's that kind of femininity and love and care and sisterhood that is felt and woven throughout this film. And I would be remiss to not talk about the sisterhood that we've built, Cynthia and I. I'm so grateful for every second of this journey with you. I have learned so much from you. I feel like it started so beautifully and so honestly and so respectfully and only grew from there. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for these women on this stage. You're all very stuck with me. I hope that's okay. I'll be stalking you forever.
Cynthia, did
Oh, that wasn't a clap. I'm kidding.
this production feel different to you than others?
Yes, very, very different. And mainly because of what we're talking about. I really love what Winnie was saying about this particular production fostering feminine energy when you're on a production, and they're all well-meaning, but a lot of masculine energy surrounds a film set often. So you feel as though what you carry as a woman isn't necessarily not appreciated, but not taken care of. Mm-hmm. And when you're surrounded by women and men who welcome the energy that you have, in not just in your joy and in your laughter, but in your rage and in your pain, it allows you to really feel free. It means that Ari and I can share a moment like the Ozdas and weep, and she can wipe my tear, and no one's gonna feel strange. In fact, what's going to be encouraged is that Alice gets to capture it through Karsten's lens, who will dance with me and Ari at the instruction of Alice, which is divine. Or Marissa and I can spend a moment together as sisters and find each other on our own levels. And when we have that one moment right before she goes off into school, it really is a wonderful moment of sisterhood. And John will leave us in our rehearsal for us to just get to know each other and be okay with that. Dana will sneak up on a set just before rehearsal, before we start shooting, and we'll have a quick word before she grabs her coffee. But it's welcome that it's welcome for her to just wander around on set and be there. And I can sneak over and say, hey, Dana, what about this? And she'll say, yeah. And then the first time I met Nancy was over Zoom. But I knew that she had the permission to be like, actually, can you try that a different way? When we're doing ADR, it's just as important as the words we say live, because you want to catch the performance. I have to say that's one of my favorite ADR sessions I've had. And we only had a little amount to do, but it was so important that the read and the tonality was succinct and correct, so it still matched the energy that was there when we shot it months ago. That can only come when the space is open enough for us to be who we are as women and to celebrate the pieces of ourselves that sometimes we don't get to share and show. She became Lucille Ball. You can only do that when you feel safe enough to play, but that means that John has to be brave enough to let her just be all the woman that she wants to be and run around that set and feel free and be like a bird and a butterfly all at once. And I can be my vulnerable self when usually I have to have a wall up. Right. But it means that if the space is open enough, we can really build that,
It sounds like it was both transcendent and transgressive.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
One other thing
I think I'm
very grateful for all of you for is that, in life it's very difficult, and we've learned this about our country, that there is no version of female power that people seem to be okay with.
Right.
And every single person on this stage has shown me a different version of female power that doesn't look anything like the male version of female power, and yet is so profound and powerful in its own right. Sometimes you can't even hear what Alice is saying. She's so quiet. And, everybody on the set is like leaning in, and she's in such command because she knows exactly what she's doing. And so you learn, like, I don't have to shout at anybody. I don't have to try to show power over anyone else. I can do it with other people. It's like 20 people tried to give her a microphone before we started. This is power. This is all of our version of power, and it doesn't look the way other power has been supposed to look for us. And so thank you to all of you for showing me versions of power that I look up to and think is amazing.
I sincerely hope that the way you all talk about being on this set is something that becomes the norm.
Well, we'll
right?
make it the norm.
You'll make it the norm.
We have to. You can't really go backwards once you've experienced something. Once you know that it exists and is possible.
Right.
You take the excuses out of everybody else's mouths for not making it exactly what you've experienced. Now, is it going to be exactly the same? Probably not, but that is no excuse for it not to feel or to have some semblance of what we've experienced, because it is possible.
Right.
If it's possible, then you can replicate and you can create something that allows every single one of us to feel safe on a set again. Yeah.
I think it's so important, and it's so important for this room to hear, to know that that's possible, so that they all will bring it to all of the productions that they work on. So it's deeply trendsetting. I wanted to shift a little bit and talk a bit about the characters. So Ariana, how did you approach Glinda's evolution from sort of bubbly and more naive to savvy? And were there specific scenes where that transition felt at all challenging?
Yeah, well, I think that Glinda's a little bit complicated, I think she starts in the beginning very unaware. I think she's been raised in a little bit of a bubble, And I think there is a lot of goodness deep down. I think she just hasn't been exposed to anyone that is really different than her yet. And when she meets Elphaba, I think she's immediately in awe of her. And I think that moment that you ask, when does that change happen, is in the Ozdas ballroom. She's a person who's so afraid of that exact moment that's happening to Elphaba. That's her greatest fear, is that disapproval or being in the center of a circle where people are judging her. That's her greatest fear. She has this insecurity deep down, and it's so important to her that she's liked, that people love her, and that she's the popular one, and that she has influence. And in that moment, it kind of changes, and it's a true example of empathy, because I think there's a big difference between pity and empathy, and she wants to take on what's happening in that moment, because in that exact moment, her fear switches from people not liking her to her hurting people. And she realizes that she has to become empathetic, and she has to become actually good, not what it's a performance of good, and not liked, not popular. That there's so much more. And I just really tried to get to know what those insecurities were, so that as the arc happens throughout the film, and as she grows, and as she gets to where she goes, even in the comedic bits, you still feel her heartbeat, and
It's such a beautiful part of the story, and I think, my kids are in the audience. I'm excited for them to see characters evolve in that way. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm excited for you to see where it goes.
Yes, we
I
are.
love her very much, and I think she's extraordinarily complicated and beautiful, and I love the ways in which Wicked fights for humanness. And a lot of people talk about, which one's the good witch and which one's the wicked witch? Oh, she's actually wicked and she's actually good. And that's kind of nonsense, because humans contain multitudes, and people are so quick to erase context and feelings and hurt and reactivity and emotional maturity, and how that takes time. It takes time for people to become as brave as Elphaba. No one starts as brave as Elphaba. Yeah, truly. So there's beautiful growth, and I can't wait for you to see more of these women and where we go and how we grow. Sorry.
Marissa, your character really adds depth to the world of Wicked. And how did you shape your role in a way that felt true to the story, but also offered something fresh?
Yeah, totally. I think being somebody that is in a wheelchair and taking some of my own experiences and even some of my own insecurities as someone in a wheelchair, going to college for the first time and being so far away from home, and wanting to be independent and really wanting to prove yourself. And then that sometimes takes over how I interact with other characters. And so I think bringing that layer of my own self to this character and my own experiences as a disabled person definitely adds a new and exciting and refreshing layer to the character of Nessa, because as Ari said, like, all of these characters are incredibly complex. They're never just one thing. Nessa's excited, and she's also anxious, and she's just so many things, truly. And she cares about her sister so deeply, and she cares about all her relationships deeply. And sometimes I think some of her ambitions and her wants, like wanting to go to the dance, she doesn't see anything outside of just wanting to have a fun time at a dance with somebody who's shown her interest, because she's never experienced that really before. And I I relate to a lot of that. And of course, I think there's also a little bit of internalized ableism within Nessa's character as well. And that's something that I've experienced and also still continue to work through. And yeah, all of my own experiences add a whole nother layer to her character, for sure.
One of the things I think is so special about the film is how multi-layered all of the characters are, and certainly yours. How did you balance that kind of vulnerability and strength, especially in those scenes that are emotionally intense and also sometimes physically intense?
I think the very first thing I wanted to do was find out all the pockets of joy and hope that she has. Because I think the assumption is that she is only strong, or she's only guarded, and she's only annoyed, or but actually, I see so much hope in her. That moment when when Madame Marble sees her, and for her it's like finally a moment when someone sees all of me. It's this wonderful spark that happens. It's when The Wizard and I happens, it's all joy, it's all hope, it's all possibility, which is why when you move further in to the film and to her and through her arc, that moment in the Ozdas is really heartbreaking because you see her come in and she's open. She believes she's been welcomed. And then she has to discover that actually that's not the truth. And for someone to learn what that is, to watch someone realize that actually what she thought was happening is not happening, that happens a lot for her. She's like on a wave of believing something and discovering the truth, believing something and discovering the truth, believing something and discovering the truth, right till the very end of Defying Gravity. She believes something, she thinks that she might not be able to fly. She jumps out that window. She doesn't believe she can fly yet, until she sees her younger self and realizes that the only person that can save her at this moment is her. That's the truth. Then she has to believe. Then you see her believe a truth. And for me, I wanted to figure out how that emotional arc would vacillate throughout. Up until the Ozdas, she doesn't cry ever. It comes across, she might be annoyed, or she shows that her eyes will roll, or she's irritated, but the sadness doesn't come through until the walls have come down. So I had to figure out, well, how do you make the walls come down? How do you allow her to become completely exposed and vulnerable? And that's really a testament to Ari and John and Alice and the space that they set up for me to be able to hold a moment, hold a feeling, use the things that I've experienced as Cynthia, the loneliness, the hurt, the rejection, the pain, all of those things that I've experienced as me, and hold on to those things in that space and then let them go when it was time. And to use that moment to carry through. The songs are an internal conversation. Often you'll notice that she's by herself often when she's singing, and except for Popular and What Is This Feeling. Whenever she's singing, she's usually on her own because she's allowing herself to be honest. Mm-hmm. So I would always use those songs as moments to share a vulnerable truth, you know? Until she gets to share a vulnerable truth with everyone at the end. She has to earn that. She can't just be at Defying Gravity at the beginning. She has to get there. You have to watch her grow. Ari said something really beautiful before, that everyone has to, it takes time to learn to be brave. And that's really, really true. It takes time to learn to be brave. Elphaba takes her time to get there. She's not there at the end. She's not at Defying Gravity when you first meet her. She has to get there. Right. All the things that she goes through get her there. She has to let go of the things that she has believed for a really long time of other people to believe it of herself. So, yeah.
It's emotional just listening to it.
Yeah.
Just listening to you talk about that.
So you get it now. So you get it.
I keep wanting to talk about the fact that everyone's like, why are they crying so much? And like, well,
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah. You know, tears are cleansing. Tears
Thank
are
goodness.
cleansing.
It's healthy.
They're good
It's healthy
for
to
you.
cry.
I mean, we believe in crying at work now.
Good. We should cry at work. We cried at work every day.
But not just the women, the men were crying at work every day.
It's
Our
true.
grip
Jack
department and our AD, but our grip department, we would be doing these massively huge crane shots with tears pouring down their face. And it was, I mean, back to the safe space. It was the safe space for all people on this movie to be able to feel vulnerable and be emotional and be completely invested in these characters.
And Simon and Arthur. Arthur would be holding the boom over our heads, and he would have little tears coming down. It was the best thing.
Behind his glasses.
Yeah.
And Simon, who looks like
You're teaching people that crying is power.
Yeah.
Like, you taught America through all your crying in your press tour that's power. I love it.
I wish we could stay here all evening with you
Me
talking
too.
about this. But you all have to go to another screening.
Can I ask Winnie one question?
Yes, of course.
Winnie, when
Darling.
you were first, I'm talking like 20 something years ago, when this first came to you, what were your initial thoughts? Where did you start?
Well, it came to me because Stephen, brought me in. Because Stephen Schwartz had this incredible epiphany when he read the novel. Mm-hmm. He said, this should be a Broadway show. And luckily, he did think of me to write it with him. And I think one of my first thoughts was, well, first of all, honestly, just anything Stephen Schwartz wanted to do with me, I just would have said yes. I didn't really care what it was. I just wanted to work with him. I was thrilled. But I think in terms of this story, I felt the question that is in the beginning of the story, what does it mean to be wicked? What does it mean to be good? I actually had a pretty personal association to the word wicked because I had used it only once in my life to a family member. And I felt very strongly that it was a very powerful word. And the idea, and also the idea of witches, we were talking about this in an interview, witches, women have been accused of being witches for centuries when they were the powerful people in the village, in the community, when they had knowledge, when they had depth and special healing powers. They were accused and ostracized, maybe killed. So the whole idea for me of a woman's power, about what it would mean to be truly good, as you were touching on, Ari, what does it really mean to be good? What does it really mean to be wicked? Those are my jumping off points.
It's so important, always important, but in this moment in time, the next 4 years, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.